Hello, my name is Connie Lane, and I'm running for re-election as a Democrat for state representative in Merrimack District 12, which is Concord's Ward 2. I am running because I want to ensure that New Hampshire reflects the values upon which our country was founded, equal justice and opportunity for all. I believe that each person should have a shot at the American dream, regardless of race, income, gender, faith, or sexual orientation. I want everyone to have the chances that I've been fortunate enough to have. That means we need to provide quality public education, affordable housing, affordable health care, infrastructure, and a voting process that allows each of us to exercise our New Hampshire constitutional right to vote easily as an inhabitant of New Hampshire. It has been an honor to serve as your state rep for the past 2 years. I want to take a moment just to tell you a little bit about what I've been able to accomplish on your behalf during that time. When I canvassed the ward in 2018, your number one issue was to keep your property taxes from continually rising. I heard you and I delivered. Despite Republican opposition, other Democrats and I passed a state budget that gave Concord $2.2 million to the schools, $1.5 million to Pennacook for its share of Merrimack Valley school system, funded full-day kindergarten. We gave $1.3 million to Concord in municipal aid and $200,000 to Pennacook. We fully funded the building aid fund, special education, and transportation for the first time in years. Together, this infusion of money into Concord and Pennacook kept your property taxes from increasing. We Democrats refused to let the governor and the Republicans pass the costs of education and other services down to Concord and Pennacook to fund on our own. During Sununu's terms in office, property taxes have gone up by $320 million, more than the increase during the 3 years following the 2008 recession, and his 2019 proposed budget would have caused them to rise again. He had nothing in his budget for our schools or for our city, and he refused to provide funds to the cities and towns impacted by COVID-19 as part of the $1.25 billion the CARES Act money got that we received from the federal government. By doing all these things, he's ignoring local taxpayers and putting additional burdens on our local government. I will work hard to keep your property taxes stable. I will not pass the buck down to you, as the governor and Republicans have been doing year after year. Your number two issue in 2018 was affordable health care and the fear that what would happen if the Affordable Care Act was dismantled. Again, I heard you and delivered. With other Democrats, I voted for a state budget that fully funds family planning services provided by community health centers, including birth control, STD testing, and cancer screening. Begins a dental benefit for Medicaid recipients. Assures Medicaid expansion will continue if the federal government cuts funding for this program. This is critical to fighting the opioid crisis and for COVID-19. We also funded a mobile crisis unit and added services for children. We funded suicide prevention and transitional housing for recovering opioid patients. I also voted for bills that increased transparency in pharmaceutical costs, expanded telemedicine, which has been especially critical during the COVID-19 pandemic. We required insurance coverage for tick-borne illnesses, established an opioid abatement trust fund to create prevention programs. We established a New Hampshire Drug Affordability Board. We made EpiPens affordable, and we also put in other protections for the Affordable Care Act. I will continue to fight to provide you and your families affordable health care during these troubling times. The pandemic has tested our medical infrastructure, showing its weaknesses for the less fortunate in our community. We must improve it so that the millions of Americans who receive health care through the Affordable Care Act can continue to do so during the pandemic. Since arriving in New Hampshire in 1986, I have been a stalwart advocate for affordable housing because affordable housing encourages and supports economic and community development. We must provide our young families, teachers, healthcare workers, police, and firefighters with decent housing they can afford. I have worked with the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund to expand manufacturing housing co-ops throughout New Hampshire. And I was also one of the founders of Catch Neighborhood Housing, which is a local affordable housing nonprofit, and served on its board of directors. I am now on the board of the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, which promotes finances and supports affordable housing for New Hampshire residents. I worked with the Democrats this past session to provide $5 million in annual funding for affordable housing. I also know that public schools are the bedrock of a vibrant democracy. I went to public schools in college, my parents went to public schools, and so did my kids. I will fight hard against the school vouchers proposed by Republicans. If enacted, they will actually decrease state funding for our public schools and force the city to once again increase our real estate taxes to cover that loss of funds. Quality public schools are imperative to maintaining and growing our New Hampshire economy. We should be increasing our commitment to education, not decreasing it. I voted numerous times over the past 2 years to provide increased funding to our schools and to study how we as a state can provide the funding for schools that is constitutionally required. A report is due from the Commission to study school funding soon, and I will work with both Democrats and Republicans to find ways to meet our obligations. It will be a difficult job to find the funding during the current economic situation, but it is imperative for us to do so for the future of our children and our grandchildren, who are the future of our state. We need to make New Hampshire more attractive for small businesses and entrepreneurs who create most of the jobs here in New Hampshire. This means investment in our infrastructure, highways, bridges, alternative energy, rail system, and broadband internet access. I voted for bills that would support all of those during the past session. COVID-19 has increased our reliance on the internet for school, work, and medical treatment. So it is imperative that all areas of the state have reliable broadband service, and I will work hard to provide that over the next 2 years. As one of the owners of my law firm, I recognize the challenges facing small businesses in New Hampshire, including the rising cost of health insurance and the impact of COVID-19 on employees and their families. I have watched them struggle with homeschooling and trying to work full-time. I have seen the strain put on teachers and frontline workers. As a board member of Red River Theaters here in Concord, I had to endorse the gut-wrenching decision to lay off virtually all of our employees. We need to come together as a community in these troubled times so that we can survive this pandemic and all of its side effects. I will work on bills to provide economic security to everyone, especially those who are the most vulnerable to COVID-19, healthcare workers, firefighters, and grocery store workers. They are the unsung heroes of 2020. I voted to increase the minimum wage and to protect renters and homeowners during the pandemic, both of which were vetoed by our governor. I will vote for these bills again this session. I will continue to fight for those whose voices are often overlooked or just ignored. Please vote on November 3rd. Voting is your most important right. Soldiers have died to protect our right to vote. Honor them by voting. If you want to vote absentee for fear of COVID-19, contact the city clerk's office to request your ballot. If you are not registered to vote, you can do so until October 20th at the city clerk's office. And if you miss that date, you can register on election day at the polls. Call the city clerk at 225-8500 for details about what you need to bring with you on election day. So to sum up, I'm running for re-election as your state representative because I want to ensure that every Granite Stater is treated with dignity and respect and given the support necessary to thrive. During my 34 years here in Concord, I have worked in the schools, my church, and on several nonprofit boards to support Concord families and businesses. Since I cannot canvass our ward this year, I ask that you learn more about me by going to my Facebook page, Connie Lane for State Representative, or my website, ConnieLane4StateRep.com. Remember, we are all in this together as we build a better future for our families and our community. Please vote for me on November 3rd, and thank you for listening and for your support. Take care.